Hello, welcome to episode 41 of Generation 1 of the Perfect Genetics Challenge. Carrot's here. Generation 1 is almost over. In this episode, our heir, Cindy, is going to age up to young adult. But in the meantime, we have Chaz, who's got a couple of things on his mind. Firstly, he really wants to get married now, but he's got to wait until his cheese plants produce outstanding cheeses. And they're being very slow and haven't managed to produce anything better than great quality cheeses so far. And he's used up all of his life fruit to fertilise his cheeses in the hope that he'd get outstanding cheeses really fast, but that didn't work. But he's enjoying the sprinklers in the meantime while he waits. Meanwhile, the children are waiting for the bus to come home. They're at school, just waiting outside, in the snow. I don't know who built the snowman, it was just there. James came home from work at the science facility, wishing he could upgrade something, so I sent him to upgrade the toilet that he shares with his big brother, Gary. He upgraded it to self-cleaning. It is already unbreakable. There's Prue. She's reading a recipe, I think. She's the fiancée of Chaz, and she wants to get married soon too, and she's done everything she needs to do before she gets married. She's just waiting for Chaz to get his cheeses under control. The thing that amazes me about this upcoming sequence is there is just so much drama going on in the room behind her, and Prue just sits there quietly reading as though nothing is going on throughout the whole thing. Because we have one of Don's little alien children, Mary, who is about to give her imaginary friend the potion to become real. Now, Mary and Bobo were best friends when Mary was still a toddler, but when she grew up to be a child, she spent so much time searching for the potion she wanted and going to school and doing homework and getting to know her other friends that she let her friendship with Bobo slip. And now she's going to have to spend a lot of time playing with Bobo and chatting with Bobo to get their friendship up enough so that she can get Bobo to drink the potion to become real. But we're not going to watch all of that because it just goes on and on. Eventually, the moment arrived when Bobo decided it was okay to try that interesting looking potion. It wasn't quite so scary as she'd first thought it might have been. So there it goes, down the trap. Potion's gone. Bobo's transforming. What are we going to get? Mary got 1,000 lifetime happiness points, and Bobo became a real little girl, and she got taken straight into Creator Sim. I've now decided to abandon my policy of not changing the imaginary friends too much when they become real. Little Bobo's getting a major makeover. New skin, new hair, just about new everything. We'll keep her traits though. She's evil. Chaz headed back into his garden to check on his cheese plants. Still no luck, but he keeps looking after them just to make sure he doesn't miss anything. Just wants an outstanding cheese, 20 of them. With so many Sims in the household now, mornings are becoming more and more like total bedlam. And the Sims are spending more and more time just standing without anything to do. I think it's definitely time to reduce the number in the household. As the children headed off to school, Chaz hurried up to the greenhouse to see how his cheeses were going, and for a moment he was overjoyed with excitement that he could see he had some cheese appearing on his cheese plants. But when he harvested it, they were all just great quality. He needs outstanding cheese. So we'll plant the ones he's harvesting now, and hopefully the next crop will be outstanding. Don't worry about the newly planted cheese looking all frosty. It is snowing outside, but they always look frosty inside the greenhouse until the next day. Next thing, Chaz went to work in their money tree forest. They haven't got very many money trees yet, but they'll get more. They're always short of funds, and Chaz is saving up for when he moves out because he's going to be getting married to Prue shortly, and they will need money to set up their own home somewhere else in the world. They're working hard on the money trees. This was new to me. Little Bindi playing in the sprinkler. Didn't realise pets would play in the sprinkler, but that's what he was doing. And he was having a good time, barking at it as well. Time for Sunny to age up. This is Don's 4th alien baby. We'll have a pair of alien toddlers once he's aged up. We'll get them to play together in the playpen, make friends before aging up. Little Carl, who is Bill's alien son. There's the candles blowing out. There's not many of them made it down to the party room just yet. That's Owen just arrived. He's at his jammies on. Put little Sunny down to see him spin into his toddler body. There's Olivia, our founder. Prue, who's going to marry Chaz shortly. There's Chaz coming in next. Hope he's got lots of bags of money in his pocket. He was just harvesting the money trees. And this one is Pat. He is the imaginary friend of Percy, who is the youngest son. Percy's younger than Cindy and Petal, so he'll be a while before we get Percy and Pat aged up. But there is Sonny, a toddler, and heading off to explore, not sitting around for anything. That's Trish. Here comes Cindy. I think Cindy will be the next one to have a birthday, and that's her imaginary friend there in the green t-shirt, Bobby. That'll be Cindy and Bobby aging up next. But there's more to do before the next lot of birthdays. And after Cindy and Bobby, it'll be the time for Petal and her imaginary friend Cosmo. I wonder if Cosmo can resume his relationship with Trish, because Trish is Owen's imaginary friend, and Owen and Trish aged up in the last episode. And they seem to be romantic interests at the moment. Chaz has got more to worry about than just cheese and weddings. He's also got his acrobat career to worry about, and he had an opportunity which required him to go to the coffee house and audition for a gig at the coffee house with the proprietor, and that's what he's doing now. And there is an alien snowman. We didn't see that one coming. Chaz will obviously have to come back here later to do his gig, but he's just auditioning for it at the moment. He'll get it, of course, and there it is. He's got some lifetime happiness points out of that successful audition. Finally, Gary's got an appreciative audience for his magician tricks. Here he is performing for tips at the festival grounds with the City Hall just across the road from him. I think he even actually gets a tip this time. It's just so nice to be appreciated. And he's got some flowers. He had a successful trick. Things are looking up for Gary. He's starting to have a bit of success with his tricks. And his audience is growing. Look at that. He's got 2 people watching him now. And he did a successful trick with the birds. I like the birds trick. And here's a 3rd one for the audience. This is the biggest success Gary's had so far. He might have some hope after all in getting somewhere in the magician career. Back at home, Don is putting the toddlers into the playpen so they can get to know each other and play peekaboo. He's picked up little Carl to start with and put him in the playpen, and then it'll be Sonny's turn to join him. There you go, Carl's in the pen. He can play with the abacus and learn some logic skill while he's waiting for Sonny to join him in the playpen. Little Sonny's got a blue hat on. It's a bit cold outdoors. He's got to keep his bare head warm. Hopefully it's nice and warm in the nursery though. So there we go. They're both in the playpen together, and now it's time for peekaboo. And once they've played peekaboo for a while, it'll be time for little Carl to age up to become a child. And he can start school while Sonny concentrates on learning his toddler skills and reading his toddler books. He doesn't have any toddler skills yet. Gary was all excited after getting some success with his magic, and he decided that he was also getting very frustrated with just staying at home with the family all of the time. He wanted to grow up, he wanted to get out, he wanted to meet people, wanted to see the world, so he did some travelling. And the first place he ended up in was the base camp in a world called Huntsborough. The purpose of his journeys around the various worlds right now for him was to meet all of the Sims that I have placed in the particular world he's going to visit, specifically so they are available as potential spouses for spare offspring of the current founder or future heirs. I'm expecting Gary to meet his future wife shortly. She won't be in this world, but he will meet other Sims that could be good for some of his siblings or for nieces and nephews or others in future generations. We won't be seeing very much of any of the worlds he's about to visit. It's a very quick journey. The first relevant sim that he came across in Huntsborough was Jeff's Pattern. She's a young adult human. She's been in my library for several years and I have rarely played her. She's been given a new skin and hair just to bring her up to date for this game because she was originally made before I started adding custom content to my game. Her traits are adventurous, natural cook, nurturing, equestrian and friendly. Her lifetime wish is still to be achieved, and that's seasoned traveller, and she's got no skills at the moment. She's just a brand new sim as far as this game is concerned. So Jess and Gary had a chat out in front of the theatre, and then Jess had to run off home. So I told Gary to play for tips. And instead of standing in front of the theatre where I wanted him to be in the light, he ran down a narrow alleyway and started playing for tips at the back of the theatre. And I expected nobody would find him there, but half the town seems to have turned up. It could be a bit of an exaggeration, but there's a lot of Sims there that are the biggest audience he's ever had anyway, that's for sure. And they're giving him money. His magic and his luck are both improving. Funny about that, he's been working at it long enough, finally getting somewhere with it. There's one other Sim in town that Gary needs to meet up with before he moves on. Her name is Eve Genie. He asked around and he found out where she was likely to be, but every time he thought he was about to catch up with her, she'd vanish. The last time he got near her, he did catch a sight of her as she drove off in a taxi, and he wasn't able to work out where she was going. He knew that she shared a house with Jess, and since he'd already met Jess, he decided he would pay her a visit at home after the crowd started to dissipate. Jess and Eve lived in the outskirts of town in a very tiny little house that is part of a mine, and it's built into the side of a hill. Jess prepared a meal for them to share, and they ate it quietly while they waited for Eve to come home from work. This was a good opportunity for Gary and Jess to get to know each other a bit better. You never know when he may need her to come visit and perhaps even become his sister-in-law or niece or something at some stage in the future. While talking to Jess, Gary discovered a few things about Eve. She's a young adult and a genie. Her traits are perfectionist, handy, natural cook, green thumb and angler, and she wants to become a celebrated 5-star chef. Eve did eventually manage to come home while Gary was still there, but she was very tired and she didn't want to talk for long. She got straight into her sleepwear, and Gary decided that he knows enough about her and he's met her, so he should move on. Besides, she wasn't the woman for him, even though there were lots of pink hearts. He was a bit concerned also. He knew she was a genie and he wasn't sure how powerful she was or what she might manage to do to him if he annoyed her and stuck around for too long. He didn't want to risk wearing out his welcome. As he said his final goodbyes, he went outside and had a quick look around the house that they lived in, just tucked into the side of a hill. It was on quite a large lot, so there's lots of potential there for basements and lots of digging. Lucky it's in a mine. He had a bit of a look around the rest of Houndsborough as well, and then he travelled on to the next world. Gary arrived in Mountain Lake and quickly moved into the house belonging to a few of the Sims that he was there to meet. He discovered them scattered over several households, and he moved around to get to know them all. This house is called Lifestyle Lodge, and it's something that I built, and it's in my studio on the Exchange for anybody who might be interested in downloading it. The original house is on a small block. I've put it on a larger block here and spread the fence out. It was built for a 20 by 20 lot. That's why it's so tall, to fit all the different rooms in that they need. There's basements as well. The Sims in this household all came from Donna's house. If you've been watching all of this series of videos, you'll know Donna because she came along in episode 31, and there were a few episodes devoted just to her and her household. So I won't go into detail about who all these Sims are because they're all from Donna's house. Donna had 8 Sims in her household, and I put them all together in their house and went off and played with a different household. And while I was away, Donna kicked Mabel out. So then I decided I would use separate worlds. I wouldn't put them into Moonlit Falls because I wanted to be able to control them. I didn't want to lose Mabel. When those worlds are not being played, the Sims don't age. They don't do anything. So Mabel would be safe. So I did that. And then when Gary visited this world, Mabel had gone. Donna had kicked Mabel out again. And I didn't like that. I kicked out the Sims that were left in Donna's house and placed a new fresh version of them into Donna's house. Then I thought, well, I can't leave Mabel there, so that's why I added this Lifestyle Lodge, and I moved Mabel and all of the Sims directly associated with Mabel from Donna's house into Lifestyle Lodge. The residents of Lifestyle Lodge are Mabel and Mabel's imaginary friend made real, Mateo, and Mateo's imaginary friend made real, Connie. Connie was a surprise. I have no clue how she ended up in Mateo's inventory, but she was there, so we made her real too. and Marigold, who is the clone that Connie made of Mabel, and finally Julia, who is the imaginary friend made real belonging to Marigold. The household in Lifestyle Lodge all seem to be getting along quite well together, so hoping Mabel stays put this time. After school, the two little girls decided to sit in the chairs in the ground floor where they could watch the fish in the window with digital fishiness. There's desks down in the basement, but they didn't want to go down there. We've got Mateo and Connie outside here. They were playing with the frisbee, but they decided that they're tired now. Go inside. There's bedrooms on the top 2 levels of this house. The house has got just about everything in it that a sim could possibly want. There are 3 other households in this world that we now need to investigate. It's time to go on to the next household, which will be Donna's house at the end of the street. You can see Lifestyle Lodge there, and Donna's house, it's got the blue roof. And you all know that because you have watched the videos about Donna in her house earlier in this series. 2 houses where Carla, Fiona and Ajax live came with the world, and we'll meet all of the Sims very briefly that live in all of those houses. Gary moved on to Donna's house, and this is important because Donna is the one I'm planning for him to marry eventually. Since I moved most of Donna's household to Lifestyle Lodge, the Sims left in Donna's house are Donna, Petunia, and Petunia's imaginary friend made real, Patricia. We've all seen Donna's house in detail in earlier episodes. That's Donna sleeping in the fairy house, and for some reason Gary's decided to sleep in the sarcophagus. Since Gary was going to be in this world for a while, because there's quite a lot of Sims he's got to meet, he decided to go for an audition for a gig at Verde Park, and I didn't turn this one into a festival grounds. This is a very pretty world, mountain lakes. It's a player-made world. There's a lake there that's part of the park. This is a populated world, so I don't know very many of the Sims who are living in it. Once Gary had organised his gig, he went over to the tiny lake that is a part of Verde Park, and he did a bit of fishing, just for a little while. I didn't let him stay fishing for long because he's already at level 10 and he doesn't need to he can't get any higher than that. He got his fishing skill up when they all visited China with Don. The Sims Gary has met in Mountain Lake. Donna's household being made up with Donna, Petunia and Patricia. And then there's Mabel's household, made up of Mabel and Mateo and Connie, Marigold and Julia. Ajax lives on his own in his own household. He's a plant sim that I made in Creator Sim and added the occult of Plant Sim to him using Master Controller. I made him as a possible husband for Petal, although he could end up with any of the Plant Sim girls. I want him there because I've never had a Plant Sim married to a Plant Sim in any of my games ever, and I thought it'd be an interesting experiment. There are a few ways you can turn an ordinary sim into a plant sim. The easiest is probably by eating a forbidden fruit. You don't need a mod, I just used one because it was quick and easy and I was in a hurry. Then there's Carla's household. Carla was made especially for James. I've given her traits that are similar to some of James's traits. She loves the outdoors, is a natural cook, a gatherer, family-oriented and nurturing. So I'm hoping that Carla and James have a few babies. Fiona is a sim I've had in my library for several years. I gave her a makeover. She got custom skin and hair. Her traits are gatherer, animal lover, charismatic, light sleeper and artistic. She wants to be master of the arts. I think I did make her for one of Gary's brothers, but I can't remember which one now. She could end up with anyone. We'll see what happens. So I put everybody from Mountain Lake together just for a photo shoot, but they wouldn't stay still, so I'll just do a little video of them all standing there quietly. Gary left Mountain Lake and headed for Crystalline Cove, another player-made world, and there he met Maria Clark. Maria is a witch, and her traits are flirty, party animal, avant-garde, eccentric and charismatic, and her lifetime wish is to become a monster maker. I think that means she's got to make 3 Simbots, which means she's going to have to get to the top of the inventing skill. Now Maria is another very old sim. I probably made her not long after Supernatural came out. Haven't played her much. This is a new copy of her. And she doesn't have any particular sim in mind for who she's going to end up being married to. She might get one from this generation, or we mightn't see her again till a much later generation. But Gary's decided to come and meet her anyway. When I was adding her to this world, I gave her a new custom skin, but otherwise she's unchanged from her original version. Same hair, same outfits. The next world Gary arrived in was the Stone Shields. As usual, I have made sure there's a base camp in each world that Gary arrives in, and in this world I got one of the apartment buildings and turned it into a base camp. So it's a bit of a quick overview of part of the world before Gary heads off to meet the sim he's here to meet. Her name is Elaine Starr. I had her in mind for James as well, but I don't think so. She's got some traits that they share, such as grumpy. Her traits are dramatic, bookworm, evil, grumpy, childish. She wants to be a professional author. Elaine could end up with one of the Sims, or she might just become like a townie. She's one of a group of Sims I made when I very first started adding custom skins and hair to my game. So she was just an experiment, and she's never been in a game before. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with her. Gary moved on, and the next sim he had to meet was living in Vargfeld. Her name's Michelle Martin, and she's another one of the sims that was made as a group experiment when I was first adding custom hair and skins to my game. She has been in some of the Colourful Mermaid videos, but she hasn't ever done much. We'll see what happens. I don't have any particular sim in mind for her to marry. I just thought she'd be an interesting one, and I'd like to have a go with playing her. Michelle's traits are night owl, party animal, eco-friendly, eccentric and nurturing. And she's another one who wants to be a monster maker. We'll see how she goes. To the final world in his tour, to meet the final sim that he's got to meet. Her name is Carolyn Price, and she lives in Vice City. Her traits are bookworm, eccentric, animal lover, artistic, and computer whiz, and she wants to be a star news anchor. Carolyn is another one of the group of sims that I made when I first started adding custom skins and hair to my game. By now, Gary's head was spinning from all the new sims he'd met and the new worlds he'd visited, so he headed off home, where his younger brother, Owen, who had aged up recently, had finally got around to going to the performance park to ask the proprietor there if he could join the acrobat career. So there's Owen trying to join the acrobat career. Owen's imaginary friend, Trish, also aged up, so we've got two new young adults in this household. So it's going to be Owen the Spider. That will be his stage name. Owen headed off to the Spring Festival to perform for tips, but when he got there he discovered there were festival eggs scattered all over the place. That was a surprise because it was quite late in the evening. Eventually he did manage to drag himself away from collecting those eggs and did some performing for tips. Back at home, Cosmo had decided that it was appropriate to take little Sonny up to the greenhouse so he could play in the sprinklers. Fortunately, I caught him at it before he got a chance to get wet, and I told Cosmo to take him back to the nursery immediately. That's when we came across the ginger cat, discovered a cockroach and had a little fight. So there it is, a cat fighting a cockroach. Not sure who won in the end. It sure went on for quite a while. That's it. So here we are, hanging out in the nursery as usual. We have to move a few of these sims out. They spend too much time just standing around doing nothing. A sim in the red pyjamas there with the guitar. He's just got that guitar because he wished for it. And he is the imaginary friend made real, belonging to Percy, the youngest of Don and Olivia's children. I think everybody's going to go outside now and listen to him play the guitar in the snow. Not all of the household were home at this time. A few of them were still at the Spring Festival. There is the heir, little Cindy. She's still a teen, but we're going to do something about that shortly. The sim standing near the door holding the toddler is her future husband, Bill. He's already aged up to young adult. Now, Gary has gone to the festival a lot. He wanted to try his luck playing for tips. He had so much good luck when he was visiting other worlds. He thought he's improved and he would get an audience for sure here, but I think he was a bit late. Most of the Sims had gone home. There was just a few of them chasing eggs at the moment. There was Prue behind him. She's just arrived to see if she can find any eggs. She might just pick some wildflowers. There's plenty of wildflowers, and Owen's given up on performing for tips. He's gone off chasing festival eggs again. Next day, it was another graduation day. This time it was for Owen and Trish. We won't spend too much time on the graduation. You've seen them all before lots of times. If you've been watching the series, just enjoy the snow on the mountains in the distance. And there is the heir, little Cindy, in her bright pink dress. She'll be graduating in the next. And there's a pretty view of the City Hall in Moonlit Falls. You can see the roller coaster behind, and on the left at the back is the house that the Sims all live in, just falling off the edge of the screen. The ceremony is over, and here's Trish. What's she going to do with her diploma? I like it when they throw them in the air. Oh, she's going to do it. Look at that. Up it goes, and she's caught it. She's graduated now. And here comes Owen, our acrobat. There he goes. He tossed his diploma in the air as well. And there's Cindy come out, and Bill's followed her out. And that is it for the graduation. I hope you enjoyed it. Now we're going to have a birthday party. Back at home in the new basement, here comes Cindy, the heir. It's time for her to age up to become a young adult. And when she's a young adult, she'll be able to get married and start having her babies. But not until we've got quite a lot of her brothers and sisters and imaginary friends moved out to other houses, and possibly some to other worlds. Everybody's in their formal gear, as they've just come straight from the graduation ceremony, so everyone's going to be very well dressed for this birthday party. Cindy's the one who is going to produce babies for Generation 2, so we're going to have to choose her trait and give her dislikes children, just like her mother Olivia had. And Cindy and Bill will continue to have as many babies as it takes until they manage to get one with the same hair and eye colour as Olivia and Cindy have. I think she'll be going into stylist fairly quickly. Everyone's gradually coming back from the graduation and finding their way down to the birthday party. This party's taking a little longer than usual for them to get through the cake because so many of them arrived late, and they all seem to need to celebrate and shout and cry and scream and be happy and spin their spinners for the same amount of time, regardless of when they arrive up in relation to when the cake is ready to eat. And having them all in their formal outfits means it's not as easy as usual to tell them apart, because I tend to notice what they're wearing and work out who it is sometimes if they're Sims that are with similar appearance. Okay, now this is Cindy's imaginary friend made real, Bobby. He's usually running around in a green t-shirt, but there he is in his formal attire, and he's got candles to blow out as well, because after all, he must age up with Cindy. That's my rule. The imaginary friends age up with their previous owner. At the end of this episode, I'm going to put Perfect Genetics Challenge away for a while I go and do the other series that I have been ignoring for the past few months. But we're virtually at the end of Generation 1. There's still Percy and Petal to age up with their imaginary friends, and once that's done, everybody will be young adults. And I might keep playing the game and move a lot of them out to other houses just to get it all done, because it's going to take me several more episodes to get everybody moved out. But I will video the weddings. We'll have a weddings episode when I get back to it, so you can see how they all were with their weddings and where they end up. You never can tell. Sometimes I move Sims from other households into my current household just to do things with them. I quite enjoy doing that. It makes the households visit each other. It's much more interaction between households that way. So although these Sims might move out and have their own homes, it doesn't mean we won't have them back for visits occasionally. Here comes Cindy. She's had her upgrade. She's been into stylist, and I gave her short hair and emphasised the tips, the blonde tips. So that's the look we've got for an heir, for the heir who's going to be taking over from Olivia. That's Olivia there in her formal outfit. If you get a close-up of Olivia's hair, you'll see she's got the same blonde tips. It's just that her hairstyles don't emphasise them as much as Cindy's does. So there's Trish still in her graduation robes, and you can see Don over her shoulder. I think that's Don. And next to her with suit and the red shirt is Bobby. He's just aged up and been into stylist and got his new outfit. Little Barbara, Prue and Chaz are down near the sink, and that's Petals are standing at the end of the table. That's the end of the video. Thank you for watching, and I hope you've enjoyed it. Please remember to give it a like if you have enjoyed it, and subscribe if you haven't subscribed and you don't want to miss the weddings and the Generation 2 episodes. Bye bye for now. Thank you for watching, and happy simming.